Hello, YouTube world. So, wow, this article is a real doozy. I just came across this article and was like, okay, I have to highlight this one. Um, so, it's coming up on the only place where I ever get news, which is the Microsoft MSN News agglomerating website. I'm not going to bother putting the link into the description below because it's almost certain to be censored by YouTube as fake news. Um, I believe it is fake news, but still, the link should be allowed. Let me just read it. It's off the charts. It's off the charts how audacious it is. So the headline says, psychopathic tendencies linked to a psychological predisposition towards populism. So if you're a populist, which means someone who stands up for the little guy, essentially that's what it means, you're more likely to be a psychopath, according to this BS fucking study. We'll read as much as I can manage to get through before vomiting. Psychopathic traits are associated with the endorsement of populist attitudes, according to new research published in the journal Electoral Studies. The findings shed light on the psychological foundations of populism, focusing on how the dark triad of personality interacts with populist beliefs across various European... Let's try to scroll this down. Right? Okay. European nations. Populism is a political approach that seeks to champion the common people against a perceived elite or establishment that is considered corrupt or out of touch with the general population's needs. At its core, populism divides society into two antagonistic groups, the pure people and the corrupt elite. Populism can manifest across the political spectrum from left to right and has been a driving force behind various political movements and leaders around the world, including Donald Trump in the United States. The dark triad, on the other hand, refers to a trio of negative personality traits: Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. Machiavellianism is characterized by manipulativeness, a cynical disregard for morality, and a focus on self-interest. Narcissism involves grandiosity, entitlement, and a lack of empathy. Psychopathy is marked by impulsivity, a lack of remorse, and antisocial behavior. While these traits are considered socially aversive, they lie within the normal range of human personality and are not necessarily pathological. However, they have been linked to various negative outcomes in interpersonal relationships and social settings. The authors of the new study, Natalie Hofstetter and Maximilian Filsinger of the University of Bern, sought to better understand the psychological foundations of populism, particularly how the dark triad traits relate to populist attitudes. Despite the burgeoning interest in populism, its psychological underpinnings remain relatively underexplored, especially regarding how darker personality traits may influence one's susceptibility to populist ideologies. While most research featured general personality traits, we focus on the role of darker nuances of personality about which even less is known. This research has explained, this is surprising as populism is generally described in negative terms as it pits distinct groups against each other, resulting in a confrontative style of politics. Furthermore, the dark triad traits of Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy are believed to have distinct relevance to the domain of politics and have been shown to characterize populist leaders. In the spring of 2020, the researchers surveyed more than 6,000 individuals in 6 European democracies. And, okay, so it's just telling us about the method. I don't need to read all that. Okay. The researchers discovered that among the dark triad traits, psychopathy emerged as the most consistent predictor of populist attitudes, displaying a significant and robust relationship across the surveyed countries. Individuals scoring high on psychopathy were found to possess stronger populist attitudes overall, particularly marked by a pronounced Manichaean outlook, which views society and politics through a lens of moralistic good versus evil dichotomies. Interestingly, while people with high levels of psychopathy tended to embrace populist attitudes more fervently, they were less inclined towards people centrism, suggesting a nuanced interaction between specific components of populism and darker personality traits. Um, Contrary to expectations, narcissism did not display a significant relationship with populist attitudes. This finding challenges some of the preconceived notions about the role of self-centeredness and entitlement in driving populist inclinations, suggesting that the appeal of populism cannot simply be attributed to narcissistic tendencies. Who thought that it was? The absence of a strong link between narcissism and populist attitudes across the diverse political landscapes of the survey countries underscores the complexity of psychological underpinnings of populism. Yeah, I'm not gonna finish reading this, but what a crock of fucking shit. What a crock of fucking shit. Um, so all of these are social constructions. The entire field of psychology is a false science. It's not a hard science. People need to understand that because a lot of people don't understand that. It's a social science, and like I think this is a really nasty attempt at trying to smear people who are standing up for, you know, standing against. I mean, there is widespread corruption. How can you say that there's not? And people who make it to the top in our society, uh, in leadership positions, fuck. Okay. Um, they do so because I would say it would be the leaders who would be like the political leaders would be more of the ones who would display these psychopathic tendencies, like the thirst for power and control over other people that a political leader has, as opposed to the little guy who's just trying to resist um, some kind of unfair situation. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should have prepared more for this live stream because I don't really have much to say other than I think it's BS. I think that psychology, the entire field of psychology, is a bunch of fucking BS. I really do. There was a study that came out that showed that uh, I think this was about not psychology, but um, why can't I think of what it's called now? Psychiatry, which is part of medicine, so it's more of a physical science, hard science than psychology. But psychiatrists were unable to distinguish between people who had mental illness and people who were acting, just faking it. They can't tell. Um, and I just think that this reflects like how is it that the whole article takes this cynical approach, like very cynical attitude towards the idea that elite people of our society may not have the same interests as the majority of common working people. Yeah, well, why of course they have different interests, of course they do. And so if they're going to be governing according to their self-interest, that's not going to be in the interest of the ordinary person. So these conflicts are kind of built in our society. Like there's going to be a conflict there. And um, also doesn't standing up for the common good or for people like just common ordinary regular working folk, standing up for their self-interest, I mean, doesn't that require a great deal of empathy? I mean, I would think that requires a great deal of empathy, as opposed to this psychopathic uh, type of personality. Like, I mean, I'm basically a populist. I try to go for what I perceive to be in the best interest for the majority of ordinary working people. Yeah. Now, I could be wrong what is in the best interest. I don't claim to know what's in everybody's best interest, but that is what I try to do. If I try to know what's in their best interest, and then that's what I'm going to support. Um, so that I see that as being something that involves a great deal of empathy, because you have to, if you're going to be championing populism, you have to be caring about other people other than yourself. Like, that's the whole point, is that you're caring about all these working people. Like, it's so I remember after Trump got elected, there were all these articles coming out in the newspaper with psychologists diagnosing Trump with this, that, and the other mental health issue. And I mean, I that was panned as a very cynical misuse of psychology. And I think that this is even worse, because this isn't just doing it to one leader, this is doing it to an entire segment of the population. And I mean, that's all I have to say. I don't want to say anything more about it. I think that this is absolutely disgusting, and I think that it it undermines the it undermines psychology as a discipline, as a rigorous discipline, when you introduce this kind of using it to demonize one's political opponents. Like, what are the chances that the researchers considered themselves to be populists? Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it. So, and even it said, well, we wanted to understand the link between populism and psychopathy. Well, why would you even think there is a link? Why? You're presuming that there's a link but just by asking that question. And I would say that there's more of a link between psychopathy and leaders, the elite, the people who are in charge of our society. Those would be the real place where I would expect you to find more psychopathy. So that's all I have to say. This is disgusting. This is truly disgusting. I want to say something else though. Earlier today, I did a live stream. Let me take this off my screen so you can see my face. Earlier today, I did a live stream where I was talking about how I'm isolated, and I've been isolated through my whole life, left out, socially excluded for most of my life, other than brief periods. And that is true. But one thing that I'm really happy about is that throughout it all, through my whole life, I've been able to say what I believe and stand up for what I believe, and even when it's not politically or socially popular to do so. So, speaking of populism, like and so, I've always been able to keep my integrity despite massive blowback. And I'm really proud of that. Yeah, and a lot of that is motivated not by self-interest. It's motivated by my care for my community and people around me, even if they don't accept me as a friend. Okay? Like, I can't stand to see people suffering, and when I do, I raise attention to it. And I'm really proud that I've been able to do that my whole life. And so, if I've been able to be a vigorous champion of the underdog through my life, and if because of that somehow that has raised the ire of these demonic people, and leads me to be isolated and ghosted and everything else. Well, it's a it's it's a price that I'm willing to pay. And I've it's not like I've had no social life. I've still been able to have friends and have relationships and still be like this. Whereas the people who uh, sell themselves out and don't ever um, speak the truth as they see it, even if it goes against powerful interests. Um, okay, they get friends too, but see, I've been isolated for part of my life, but at least not all of it. At least for part of it, I had friends too. But I never was able, I never had to sell myself out or not speak my truth. I've always been standing up for what I believe and expressing what I believe throughout my whole life. And it's not like throughout my whole life that I've been put down the whole time. So sometimes I actually get to have it both ways. Whereas the people who sell themselves out never get to have it both ways because they've sold themselves out. And so they're never speaking their truths. I mean, if you sell yourself out enough and young enough, you don't even know what your truth is, let alone to be able to speak it. That's a lot of people's problem. So I'm proud that I know what I believe and I speak it. And if that means that people are going to come against me, so be it. So be it. I know that I have a good conscience, and I know that I'm doing the right thing. And those people who do that are shameful. Anyways, I am winning. I am winning. Despite all the odds, I am winning. Things are moving in my favor. And I just thank God for that. Peace out.